What up, YouTube? Yeah, I know. Big Lou tapping back in with what it do with Big Lou. NFZR2, baby. Merry Christmas, everybody. First time you're coming to the channel, be highly appreciated if you sub, liked, and shared the channel. If this is your type of, so to speak, cup of tea, if you like sports talk, if you like, some life experience, things that your boy's been through, prison stories, some prison reform talk, life in general, and I do a lot of wide variety of topics and doing some collabing with other channels. Um, as well as that's the No Fly Zone Ricans as well, which is the original channel. Then then hit that sub button, hit that thumbs up for the likes, hit that notification bell so that you get all notifications when I drop something new here at What It Do with Big Lou and FZR2. This is Christmas Day 2022. Um, this is back on the profile tip, and we're going to do some boxing right here. These two individuals that I'm going to be profiling right now are, in my opinion, are two of the greatest Latino boxers ever, but they also fit in as just taking off that label, Latino boxers. And there are two of the greatest boxers, period. But um, you know, of Latin descent. And the first one is he was born September 12th, 1958. Wilfredo Benitez, aka El Radar, which means El Radar means the radar, right? Or the Bible of boxing, they called him. He was a junior welterweight, and junior middleweight. Um, he stood 5'10", 70-inch reach, um, Puerto Rican, but he was born in the Bronx, New York, and lived most of his life in Puerto Rico. Now he resides in Chicago. He fought orthodox. He had 62 total fights in his career, 53 wins, 31 of them by knockout, 8 losses, and 1 draw. He's inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1996. He was voted in. He is considered among the best Puerto Rican boxers of all time, um, along with uh, Felix Tito Trinidad, Miguel Angel Cotto, Hector Macho Camacho, Wilfredo Gomez, uh, Carlos Ortiz, Jose Torres, Edwin Rosario. Um, also, I got to throw in John Ruiz in there because he's the first Latino heavyweight champion ever. Um, you know what I mean? So he's got to definitely be in there. Um, Huge thing about Benitez was he turned pro at 15 years old, and this record still stands to this day. He was, he's the youngest world champion in the history of boxing. 17 years old, he captured the WBC welterweight title, um, and uh, and it still stands to this day. So he turned 15. He turned pro at 15. A young prodigy who was managed by his father, Gregorio Benitez, was a member of one of Puerto Rico's boxing families. His brothers Frankie and Gregorio Benitez Jr. having also been top contenders in the 70s. Benitez's troop was largely directed by their mother, Clara Benitez. Young Wilfred was nicknamed the Radar for his uncanny ability to foresee and dodge his opponent's punches, right? He grew up going to a neighborhood boxing gym in New York, where he learned from watching his brothers and other local renowned fighters practice their skills in the craft, right? He was a student of the craft. During the early stages of his professional career, Benitez often traveled to the Netherlands, Antilles, and New York City for fights. He divided his fights between those locations and Puerto Rico. The proximity of those two locations of Puerto Rico helped him start to become a household name in the island while building an international following at the same time. His speed, combined with punching power and surprising ring maturity for a 16-year-old, were enough to make him a world-ranked boxer by both the WBA and WBC. then boxing's only world title recognizing organizations. And since then, the IBF came in, I think, in '78, um, which Larry Holmes was the first inaugural IBF heavyweight champion, and then the other divisions followed. And then the WBO at one point was not recognized as a major world title, especially in the three belt era. But now it is. Now it's the four belt era, right? So on March 6, 1976, at age 17, with his high school classmates in attendance, he faced lineal and WBA junior welterweight champion Antonio Cervantes, known as Kid Pambele or Pambele. The champion was 30 years old and had a record of 74 wins, 9 losses, and 3 draws with 35 KOs and made 10 title defenses. The result was a 15-round split decision in Benitez's favor. Benitez retained the championship 3 times and then moved up to welterweight division. Um, Benitez challenged Lineal. Also, let me clarify that because I had that wrong. So I thought the welterweight title was his first title. So I stand corrected. His junior welterweight title, WBA, was his first title at age 17. So I had that wrong. So sorry about that. I didn't even remember. I had to read my writing again now. So Benitez challenged Lineal and WBC world champion Carlos Palomino in San Juan on January 14, 1979. Benitez won a 15-round split decision to become a world champion in the second weight division. Referee Zach Clayton scored the fight 145-142 in Palomino's favor, but judges Jay Edson and Harry Gibbs disagreed. Edson scored the bout 146-142 for Benitez, and Gibbs also scored Benitez 146-143. After outpointing Harold Weston Jr. in his first defense, avenging an earlier draw, Benitez fought Sugar Ray Leonard in Las Vegas, Nevada on November 30th, '79, and Sugar Ray took his WBC title. And then he moved up. He moved up again after that loss. So on May 23rd, '81, at age 22, he became the youngest 3-time world champion in boxing history by knocking out WBC World Super welterweight / junior middleweight Maurice Hope in 12 rounds in Las Vegas. The knockout was named one of the knockouts of the year. And then eventually he fights Tommy Hearns, and Tommy Hearns takes that belt. And then he also defeated the other guy that's on this profile, Roberto Duran. So in my opinion, Wilfredo Benitez, aka a Radar, should be considered when they say the four kings, which is Hearns, Hagler, Duran, and Leonard. I think that Benitez's name should be in there. The only thing is Benitez never fought Hagler because he never fought at middleweight, but he fought Leonard. He lost his welterweight title to Leonard. He lost his super welterweight title to Hearns, and he beat Duran. Let's see. This is the one here. Let's see. His next fight became a historic bout on November 14, '81. He fought future world champion Carlos Santos of Saiba, Puerto Rico. It was his first world championship fight between two Puerto Ricans in boxing history. It was fought 3,000 miles away from Puerto Rico at Caesar's Palace in Vegas. Benitez won a 15-round unanimous decision. His next defense was against none other than Los Manos de Pierda Duran, Roberto, right? Whom Benitez defeated at Caesar's Palace on January 30th, '82 by a 15-round unanimous decision. On December 3rd, '82, at the Carnival of Champions, New Orleans, Benitez lost the belt to another boxing legend, that which I had just mentioned, Tommy Hearns. Um, let's see. He's also been in the ring with Davey Moore, which is another boxing legend and an ex-champion. Let's see. He's fought the likes of Matthew Hilton, like I just mentioned, Davey Moore, Mustafa Hamsho, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, Carlos Santos, Maurice Hope, Sugar Ray Leonard, Carlos Palomino, Bruce Curry, which is the brother to Donald Curry. He fought him twice. He beat him twice. Harold Weston. um, Antonio Cervantes. I think what happened with Benitez was that he started so young. By the time he was late 20s, they were talking about he was burnt out already and he was over the hill. And I think a lot of it had to do with that, but also, his decisions out of the ring also had a big thing, had a big part of it, I believe, in what happened with him. But his mother, he's like confined now to a wheelchair and bedridden pretty much, and he has to be fed and changed and all that and bathed. Um, and his mother was taking care of him, and then his mother passed, and then they had that hurricane. Um, what was it, Hurricane Maria, I think it was called, that they pretty much did a lot of damage to where he was staying at, and then I believe that ex heavyweight uh, Fresno Kendo, another Puerto Rican, had a some type of organization, like a nonprofit organization, and they were able to raise the money to get Benitez moved from Puerto Rico to Chicago with his sister. So now he's living there with his sister. Like I said, in my opinion, Wilfredo Benitez has the record of the youngest world champion ever at 17 years old, and then also it was said uh, that is also he was 22 years old, the youngest person ever in boxing history to be a three weight class champion at 22 years old. See, so that says a lot right there. And then unfortunately, he made some bad choices, and he has health problems now. I don't know if the health problems has to do a lot with the choices he made, or it was just the cards he was dealt with. But nonetheless, Wilfredo Benitez is definitely one of the greatest Latino boxers ever, as well as boxers period ever. And you know, he's still pushing, man. He shows every day. He wakes up and he's a champ. You know what I'm saying, at heart. And shouts out to Wilfredo Benitez. And now we're gonna talk about this man. Was born on June 16, 1951. Roberto Duran Samiego in Panama. Right, he's born in Panama. He's also known as Mano de Piedra or Manos de la Piedra, Hands of Stone, El Cholo, and Rocky. He fought at super featherweight, lightweight, junior welterweight, junior middleweight, and super middleweight. He stood 5'7" with a 66.5-inch reach, and he was born at El Chorrillo, Panama. Orthodox. He stands orthodox. 119 total professional fights, 103 wins, 70 wins by knockout with 16 losses. Now, that 16 sounds like a lot, which it is a lot, but out of 119 fights, you lost 16. We all know that Roberto should have retired a long time before he ended up retiring, and he did retire. He made comebacks a lot of times, and some worked out for him, and some didn't, and that's why he has 16 total losses. But he is considered the number one, the greatest Latino boxer ever, or number two. It depends who you're talking to. It's going to be either him or Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. But again, like I said, with Benitez, both Roberto Duran and Julio Cesar Chavez, since I mentioned him right now, are both considered, not only are they considered two of the greatest Latino number one and number two Latino fighters of ever, but they're also two of the greatest boxers, period. You know what I'm saying? Um, So in 2002, Duran was voted by Ring Magazine as the fifth greatest fighter of the last 80 years. See, example, perfect example. While boxing historian Bert Sugar rated him as the eighth greatest fighter of all time, the Associated Press voted him as the best lightweight of the 20th century, with many considering him the greatest lightweight of all time. Duran retired for good in January of 2022 at the age of 50, following a car crash in Argentina in October of '01, after which he had required life-saving surgery. He had previously retired in January 1980, June of '84, August of '88, only to change his mind. Duran ended his career with a professional record, like I mentioned, 119 total fights with 103 wins, 70 wins by knockout. And from May '71 up until his second fight against Sugar Ray Leonard in November of '80, as well as his fight against Benitez in January '82, Duran was trained by legendary boxing trainer Ray Arcel. A little bit about his early life. He was born on, like I said, June 1651 in Guarare, Panama. His mother, Clara Samiengo, was a native of Guarare, and his father, Margarito Duran Sanchez, was from Arizona, United States, and of Mexican descent. Um, he was raised in the slums of El Chorrillo in the district La Casa de Piedra, the House of Stone in Panama City. He began sparring with experienced boxers at the Neco de la Guardia Gymnasium, where he was only 8 years old. Uh, so lightweight, Duran won his first 31. He won his first 31 consecutive professional fights, and scored knockout victories over future featherweight champions Ernesto Marcel and former super featherweight champion Hiroshi Kobayashi, culminating his first title bout in June '72, where he defeated Ken Buchanan in Madison Square Garden for the WBA lightweight championship. Duran, as a 2-1 underdog, scored a knockdown against the defending champ just 15 seconds into the opening round and battered him throughout the bout. He was well ahead on all three scorecards at bell rang to end the 13th round, at which time Duran, apparently not hearing the bell, continued to throw a couple of extra punches as Buchanan lay on the ropes. As Duran continued punching, the referee Johnny Bobianco grabbed him to pull him away. He pulled down on Duran's arm, which led to seemingly accidental low blow. Buchanan dropped to the canvas in pain. His trainer, Gil Clancy, later said he had believed the blow to have been caused by a knee. Duran was not disqualified from the bout. Instead, he was deemed a winner by 13th round technical knockout. Duran followed up his title-winning performance with several non-title matches. Later that year, in another non-title bout, he lost a 10-round decision to Esteban de Jesus, a fellow Puerto Rican boxer, ex-champ. Duran got back on track with successful title defenses against Jimmy Robertson, Hector Thompson, and future lightweight champion Guts Ishimatsu. In '74, Duran avenged his loss to De Jesus with a brutal 11-round knockout. In '76, he defeated future junior welterweight champion Saul Mambi. Overall, Duran made 12 successful defenses of his title, 11 coming by knockout, and amassed a record of 62 wins, 1 loss. His last defense coming in '78 when Duran fought a third bout with Esteban de Jesus in a unification match a unification match wherein Duran once again knocked out De Jesus and captured his WBC lightweight championship. Duran gave up the undisputed lightweight championship in February of '79. Welterweight and the brawl in Montreal. Vacating the lightweight titles was a build-up for an attempt at the welterweight title. So he went up from lightweight, which is 135, to welterweight 147. So we see that unsuccessful attempt by Mikey Garcia when he went up to fight Earl Spence. Earl Spence gave him his first loss. He went up 12 pounds. And then we also seen it with Sugar Shane Mosley went up from lightweight to welterweight to fight De La Hoya, which either he went up 2 divisions, either from lightweight to welter or from junior welter to junior middle. I'm not sure, I don't remember which one it was, but successful in that one. So like I said, he vacated the lightweight titles for the build up for an attempt at the welterweight title. Duran earned wins against former WBC welterweight champion Carlos Palomino and Zeferino Gonzalez, among others, setting the stage for a bout against then undefeated WBC welterweight champion Sugar Ray Leonard. And we all know what happened there. He dominated Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray wanted to fight toe-to-toe with Duran, and that was a no-no. Leonard stepped away from his game, what he was good at, and it backfired on him. But he captured the win in the next one. But when they rematched, and Duran said, he quit on the stool. No mas. It's known as the legendary no mas, which means no more. No more. He quit on the stool, and the thinking was what he was thinking was, well, I gave him a rematch, so let's just end this shit now, and he'll give me a rematch. But it didn't happen for many, many, many years later. So this is a little bit about Duran, and like I mentioned in 80, I think it was 82, he fought Benitez, which Benitez won. But Duran ended up stepping up and fighting Davey Moore. Um, let's see. He fought Davey Moore. Um, so he also fought. Let me see. This marked the beginning of a comeback in which he beat former. So he beat also Jose Cuevas, fourth round knockout, which earned him a second crack at the junior middleweight title. And this time he faced Davey Moore, WBA champion Davey Moore. So you're talking about fighting at 154 now, where this man was a dominant force at 135. So you're talking 20 pounds. He went up, which was three weight divisions. And the WBA title bout took place in Madison Square Garden on June 16, 83, which was also happened to be Duran's 32nd birthday. The still inexperienced Moore, 12-0, was game through the first three rounds, but by the fourth round, Duran said he knew Moore couldn't hurt him, and an onslaught began. And he ended up dropping him, winning that title, right? And then later he faced Hagler at middleweight in Vegas on November 10th, 83, which he was knocked out. I think no, they went to decision. They went to complete. The judges scored 144, 142, 144, 143, and 146, 145. With the unanimous decision for Hagler. And then, let's see, despite the loss, Duran became the second man to take Hagler to a 15-round decision. Vito Interfermo was the other. So that was a big accomplishment because, Hagler was a beast, In my opinion, he's one of the greatest middleweight champions ever. Sugar Ray Robinson's number one, I think. And then in June of 84, Duran was stripped of his light middleweight title when the WBA did not approve of his fight with WBC champion Thomas Hitman Hearns and took away recognition of Duran as world champion. In the moment, Duran stepped into the ring to box Hearns. Duran again made history in the fight, but this time it was the wrong kind. Hearns dropped Duran twice in the first round, and as he rose to his feet after the second knockdown, which ended the round, the former champion did not know where his corner was. Hearns went to knock Duran down a third time in the second round, and the fight was stopped, marking the first time in his career that Duran had been knocked out of a fight. The No Mas fight was officially recorded as a technical knockout, TKO, because he quit. Duran then retired for a second time, but changed his mind over a year later and was back fighting in early of 86. Let's see, Duran did not contend another fight until 89, but made the shot count when he won the WBC middleweight title from Iran Barkley in February. Now you're talking fighting at 160, right? Like I mentioned with Hagler. So you're talking about now 25 pounds difference from the time you're considered the greatest lightweight fighter of all time, 135 pounds, and now you're fighting at 160, and Barkley is a legitimate 160, a big man, Duran is only 5'7". He's a small guy. So he went in there and, he did his thing. But the fight is considered one of Duran's greatest achievements as the 37-year-old former lightweight champion took the middleweight crown, his fourth title. In a tough back and forth, Duran knocked Barkley down in the 11th round, and Duran won a split decision, 118, 112, 116, 112, 113, 116. The bout was named the 89 Fight of the Year. And so he took that title. So that was his fourth weight class as a champ. Let's see. Then he went up to even heavier, super middleweight. That was just 168. And he moved up to super middleweight for a third fight with Sugar Ray Leonard in December of 89. A fight dubbed Uno Mas, one more, by promoters, where Leonard's WBC super middleweight title was on the line. Although Leonard's camp insisted that the fight with Duran be at 162 pounds, which was a catch weight, instead of 168. The super middleweight limit that Duran favored. In the end, both weighed in below the 160-pound limit. Duran was uncharacteristically flat for most of what was a strange fight. Although Leonard won the fight by a wide unanimous decision, 120, 110, 119, 109, 116, 111. By the end of the fight, Leonard looked the worst for wear as he had suffered several bad cuts. Leonard's lip was busted by a headbutt in the 4th round, his left eye cut in the 11th round, and his right eye cut in the 12th round. The cuts required more than 60 stitches. Duran didn't fight again until 91, So had given up his WBC middleweight crown that he had won against Barkley. Duran seemed to be in decline after the third fight with Leonard, but he persisted and worked his way into title shots for the lesser IBC super middleweight and middleweight titles in 94, 95, 96. Duran fought Vinny Pazienza twice in June 94 and January 95 for the IBC super middleweight championships, with Pazienza winning both times by unanimous decision. In his first fight, Duran put Pazienza down in rounds 2 and 5, but referee Joe Cortez controversially ruled the round 2 knockdown to be a slip. Um, he's fought Jorge Castro of Argentina, former champion. He fought William Joppy. He fought Camacho. This guy's, I mean, Duran's got such a fucking resume. It's crazy. So his last professional fight was against Camacho, which he lost. Like I said, he's been in there with William Joppy, Jorge Castro twice. He won one, lost one. Actually, he fought Camacho twice. He lost them both. Twice to Vinny Pazienza. Sugar Ray Leonard 3 times. 1 and 2. Iran Barkley, Paul Thorne, Juan Carlos Jimenez, Robbie Sims. Lost to Hearns, lost to Hagler, back-to-back fights, beat Davey Moore, Jose Cuevas, Kirkland Liang, Wilfredo Benitez, Carlos Palomino, he's been in there with, Esteban de Jesus 3 times, Sal Mambi, you know what I'm saying? He's got a hell of a Ray Lampkin. He has a hell of a resume. But you know, they even have that story that he hit that horse, and I don't know if the horse actually all the way dropped or he got wobbly, but I don't know if it's just a folklore. He's told the story before, though. His uncle told him to hit the thing. But nonetheless, when I was growing up, I was a kid. Duran. That was always a legendary name. You know, along with Leonard and Hearns and Hagler. You know what I'm saying? And you know, he's just you know, he's like that. In my opinion, he's like the Michael Jordan. You know, like people say Michael Jordan's the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, you know, that was when I was coming up. That's what, you know, it was him. You know, Chavez was a little bit later. You know, I'm not saying they were both fighting at the same time, but Duran came into the picture in the 70s. You know what I mean? But definitely those two are like, you know what I mean? And then being Puerto Rican, you know, Benitez has a lot of things he accomplished as a young teenager and then a young man. Um, you know, and so, you know, that little bitty island that our roots come from, you know what I mean? Here we got some guys, Gomez, Benitez, you know, Rosario, you know, 3 division champions, you know, then you got Camacho, and then later, you know, Trinidad and Cotto, you know, and now we're looking for the next Puerto Ricans that are take the torch. There really ain't none right now. You got Berlanga and you got Zayas. But we'll see what happens. But anyways, when it comes to Duran, man, he just had that. His name just rang as the GOAT, you know, as far as Latino boxers. And like I mentioned, Burt Sugar ranked him 8th all time. And then Ring Magazine and whatever the other thing was, you know, in the 20th century, the greatest lightweight. You know what I mean? So he's got a lot of you know, his name carries a lot of weight, and the resume he has with all the professional fights, well over 100 professional fights. You know what I mean? So, anyways, people, that's just a little boxing profile for today, Christmas Day, 2022. And again, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to come. And be responsible, peoples. That being said, Big Lou tapping out.